Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Impact Review of October 18th. Sorry it's a little late, but we got it right here. This is a good test to see how well they did after Bound for Glory. Bound for Glory was off the hook. Let's be honest. Comparing to some of the pay-per-views that TNA had in the last 9 months, I mean, they've had good pay-per-views. They also had a few stinkers. But comparing this to how much the WWE has been doing over the same amount of time, baby, we got it better here from this Bound for Glory. So let's see clearly if they've improved on what they've done. So, the very beginning of the show, next to a pre-tape of what happened in Bound for Glory, you have aces and eights coming out from the crowd, and I wish to say clearly this is very refreshing. If you see the WWE and how TNA used to do factions, they will come out from the ramp, going from the back. WWE, when it came to John Cena, almost all the time, even when he was kicked out, maybe once he did it from the audience at one point, he always found a way to get into the back. When it came to CM Punk, which was the most stupidest thing, instead of letting him come from the audience, he came from the back. This is refreshing to see them still come from the audience, and I hope they maintain this. This will keep a different perspective. About 6 of them come into the ring. Their leader or their representative of their leader comes on screen, and he basically says, the person we thank, my president, he said president of our club, thanked the most was Devon. He is our newest member, and we love him. We thank him. So Devon also comes from the audience, which I say is still a great touch. And when he gets into the ring, and it was Taz later in the night that said, oh, you know what I saw in his jacket? I guess he forgot during this segment. It said clearly, Sergeant at Arms. It would have been good for Taz or Mike Tenay had noticed this, saying, oh, wait a minute, what's that on his jacket? Does that say Sergeant at Arms? Does that mean he's the sergeant of Aces and Eights? It would have been more dramatic then instead of later in the night in another match. Honestly, I would have thought it went better that way. But still, Devon was very good. It's always been known when you had the Dudley brothers, if it wasn't Bubba, it was Devon, they could talk very well. And since we never really heard Devon talk a lot during the time of his title reign as TV champ, this was good. He did a very good job. And then when Hulk Hogan came down with... No, it wasn't Hulk Hogan, I'm sorry. When Sting came down with the roster, and you see Bully Ray basically pacing like a wild dog, that was a good touch for him. And once the roster started fighting with Aces and Eights, it was alright. This wasn't a bad segment. It kind of works with the storyline. But I wish to say right now, if no one didn't notice, 2 teasers went off. 2 of them. Now, what do I mean by teasers? We had something that went on while they were taking video footage of this. If you would notice it, you'll understand at the end of this video. So I'm going to leave it as that. First thing we got. After that was the first backstage with Hogan and Anderson. And Anderson was told by Hogan, I want you in the Fatal 4-Way next week to go for Jeff Hardy's title, because that's Champion Thursday. And we got Joseph Parks that came in, which he did great during Bound for Glory, breaking that let me see, handcuffs and beating the crap out of one of Aces and Eights. Oh, I enjoyed that. That was epic. And then basically for Hulk Hogan, and he says, I need to have privacy with you, kicking everyone out, including the cameraman. That was a nice touch. We don't know what was said, but we have an idea later, particularly when it came to Sting, Hogan, Bully Ray, and Joseph Park again. And Joseph Park saying, I want one of Aces and Eights, along with probably what he said that he discovered. He wants one of them for what they did to him. But I think the person who had this segment obviously was Bully Ray saying, look, I know my brother. That's almost a thick, if no one knows what a New Yorker sounds like. I'm a New Yorker, but I'm from Manhattan in the Bronx. But sometimes we have a certain way we talk from comparing to the Bronx to comparing to Brooklyn. I'm sorry, if you never met a New Yorker from the different boroughs, Each, just like in different parts of the world and this country of ours, we have a little bit of a certain attitude and the way we talk. Because in the Bronx, we go down dirty, baby. We do it like this. But in Brooklyn, they do also talk almost exactly the same as in the Bronx. But for Brooklyn, you know, we always talk like this, you know. We don't mess around, you know. We're going to get you. Something a little different. But you can tell the difference. You can feel it. And the way he had this segment was a Brooklyn type of person who basically got disrespected. He got his spot blown up. And he wants revenge on a person who messed with his spot. I like that segment. Not that I like it being rough like that, how in Brooklyn. I mean, this isn't something you usually want to condone, this type of attitude. But this is wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. We have to have a certain attitude. And that was a good segment saying he's going after Devon. Give me Devon. Take Sting out. Put me in. Hogan said no. I want you in the Fatal 4-Way next week. Get ready. And Bully Ray says simply, you see, you better start trusting me now. Watch, trust me. And there was a little exchange after that with him between Hogan and Sting saying straighten that out. But it's okay. Leave it at that. So I'm going to the next backstage, a couple of backstages. We got Tara and Jesse from Big Brother. Bench pressing the crap out, no, not bench pressing, gorilla pressing his woman. Don't know why I'm botching my words. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I guess this was a very silly segment for me because it was different. I'll give it to you like this. No one's doing this. The closest that they've had anything like this was with ODB and Eric Young in the way they've acted. But essentially, not even the WWE are doing this anymore. The attitude they're giving off is different. I know it could be a rehashing of something else, but you know what? Basically, comparing to the Divas division in WWE, this is way more entertaining. At least they're doing something with them. Even if it's mostly limited, because they don't even show all the female wrestlers anymore in the Knockouts division. They don't. You don't see Angelina Love. You don't see a Winter. You don't see, basically, you've seen ODB now, but there's not much there. But still, at least it's something. It is something. And the match between ODB and Tara comes in with her man, getting the smoochy on, getting the ass smack, which was okay for both of them, if you're like that. When it came to ODB, this is where I think the ODB character is becoming stale. I love ODB. I love her best friends that she stuck later in the night to Jesse's face. I love them. I love her. She's not a bad character, but she's become stale because they're really doing nothing with the Knockouts tag team division. Nothing. Eric Young's going off to do whatever. I think he's doing a show right now about maybe fishing or something. He's not there most of the time, and the tag belts are completely irrelevant now. I would have rather seen by now they've already separated both of them from those tag team belts. They could still do something for the real casual fan about those two still having a relationship. Unless this is leading somewhere, this is really becoming a mess. She's talking on the cell phone, wanting Eric Young there, hearing, oh, who's down in the background? I better be your mama. And then takes the cell phone down to the ring. You know, you could say for a casual fan's perspective, this isn't a bad thing to do. Make it like there's something going on for ODB and Eric Young. Cool with it. But for someone who may be above average or the smart marks well above me, they may find this very stale. Because they haven't done almost nothing with ODB, nothing with Eric Young for months. They've only done little bits of them doing backstages, nothing. If Eric Young is not going to be there, if he's going to be doing a show for 3 to 4 months, take the strap off and make him come back one day to do a tag team championship belt. Come on, tag team championship. For the belts, honestly, separate the belts from them. Give it to, if Sarita and Rosita still exists in TNA, let them have it. Let someone have the belts again, because we have nothing for them to do. Either that or phase it out. It would be easy just to phase the belt out. So the match was short, thank goodness. ODB took Jessie's face and rubbed it into her best friend's, which I wish. He's pretty much trying to say, dude, if I had ODB like that, I wouldn't just lick my hands. I'd be licking those and biting on them. Believe me, I would enjoy them. ODB basically, does ODB lose this? I think she does. Let me see here, just to make sure, because, oh yeah, ODB wins. Tessmacher is there to watch. That means ODB's in line for for a Knockouts Championship eventually. Basically, Miss Tessmacher, and I'm glad they are going to give her rematch clause for next week as well against Tara. Not much there, but I'll leave it at that. The next one is going to be, the next one is going to be Gunner and Kid Cash against the Tag Team Champions, where we got Chavo and Super Mick. Not that long. It wasn't a bad match. They didn't really botch much. But honestly, the most important thing here is to get the Tag Team Champions over more. They still need to work with them. They need a storyline for these guys to work with. Chavo and Hernandez must have a storyline. They're either going to have to turn heel and have something like a Mexican America type of angle, or they're going to have a feud with someone that can show more of their charisma. And Hernandez must start talking. It's just like what happened with Anarquia and Mexican America. We all know that Hernandez can talk. But because of what happened with Anarquia, probably they're trying to get him over, and it didn't work. Now you have Chavo Guerrero, who does have some level of charisma. He can talk. But the problem I see here is they got to let Hernandez talk. Just being the muscle man is not going to be enough. It didn't work with Mexican America. If it's going to be like this, you've got to let him begin to start speaking more. He can talk. So the match wasn't very long. Chavo wins over Kid Cash. This is to try and get Chavo more over with the crowd. And the crowd is getting over with them both, which is good. They're beginning to cheer for them more. So that was the purpose of this segment. The next one was the pre-tape and then the party of Jeff Hardy. The pre-tape wasn't too bad, showing how he won Bound for Glory and how he was trying to motivate, saying, "Here are one creature!" Not bad. It wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't bad. And when he came to the ring, they brought down the confetti, which I understand they do a lot of. Well, let's put it like this. The way it was from 2011 to 12, I'm sure that in this case, it was well worth it. Jeff Hardy, no matter how you want to state how he acted last year and was so sloppy and how he was so badly addicted to whatever he was addicted to, if it was drinking, it was drugs, whatever, he did bring himself back. Most wrestlers, even very prominent ones, can really screw up, and then even when they try to come back, they're either not built properly or they fall off the rails. They don't put enough into it. Eventually they get frustrated and they fall off the rails. So I commend Jeff Hardy for what he's done. He's done good work. So he gets his confetti. He gets his cheer. I see the old original 2011 belt is around his waist again. Makes sense. I'll explain how I feel about it next. And right now with Austin Aries, the greatest man who ever lived, came with some cookies. And he did a backstage segment, which I actually liked a lot more than the pre-tape of Jeff Hardy. Saying, you know what, he's going to have a party. There's no party without Austin Aries, the greatest man that ever lived. And I think I'll bring a gift. And he brought out some cookies and some balloons. Lost the balloons. The cookies went bye-bye. Basically, this is the beginnings of how Aries is going to become more of a how would you call it? He's already healed, it's obvious. But which direction is he going as a heel? Is he going to try and come back as an edgy, like a more understanding heel, having some emotion, something near a face, maybe a tweener? Or is he going to become more of a darker heel? Go down the same path as Robert Roode, doing anything that's necessary to get his title back? Or is it going to be somewhere in between, where he still uses his in-ring ability? A heel can still be heelish if he wins. Not by always hook or by crook. By straight up beating your ass. Look at Kurt Angle. He didn't really need to do heelish stuff all the time where he had to lie, cheat, and steal. He could wrestle. Look at basically Eddie. Eddie Guerrero could do the same thing. So this is where I'm wondering, will they let Austin Aries become a more dangerous heel or vicious heel and still allow him to win matches clean? Not start going down the dirty route. I'd rather see him stay clean. He's that good of a wrestler. And in the end, when he saw the belt and he asked Hardy to get it, and I'm going to kind of agree with Austin Aries, not to spit at the belt, but honestly, for me personally, I really don't like the belt. It's not a bad belt, and it makes sense for the storyline, but for me, honestly, it had its day already when it went for Immortal. Right now, it does make sense, so I'm glad it's being used in that respect, but for me personally, honestly, maybe if they change the design of it later, make it different. Not to go back to the original belt, but maybe something different. Instead of Hardy having it that way, maybe I'll get more into it, but I'm not now. I'm not. So, our next bit here is the match with AJ. We got AJ and, no, not AJ, sorry. AJ, Christopher Daniels, and we have Kurt Angle. And a little bit before that, with Kurt Angle and AJ saying we're still friends, but we got to go after what we want to go after, that wasn't too bad. But it did make me think these two are going to have to go into a feud eventually. I felt that before Bound for Glory because of the tension due to Kaz and due to Daniels. And then Daniels having his moment before the match, he didn't do too bad either. When the match started, when they all came out, Christopher Daniels did not get a theme song. AJ and Kurt Angle did. I'm alright with that. And what the hell is, if it's tattooed or just painted on his chest, Christopher Daniels, Rebel. Why? Since he didn't come out with a theme song, he could have made it more prominent and say, look, Rebel on his chest. If you want to get over as a guy, which I'm a guy, you want, in that respect, you need a theme song. So when you walk down and you go, I'm the Rebel, baby, it would make more sense. It didn't. He didn't even try to present it to both the men saying, I'm the Rebel, look at me, look at my tattoo. He didn't. And most of the time he got his ass kicked by both of them. And most of the match was between AJ and Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle shoves Christopher Daniels into AJ. He gets the Angle slam, or as it's called, the Olympic slam, gets win. They had the tension in the ring, which made me realize I might be right that they're going to have a feud eventually. Well, I know that some people may not like an AJ and Kurt Angle feud, but which one would you rather have? Something you haven't seen a lot of. AJ and Kurt Angle, or AJ and Christopher Daniels? You want AJ and Christopher Daniels again for a couple of months? Another program? Or you want AJ and Kurt Angle? And then let Christopher Daniels disappear for a while? I want AJ and Kurt Angle. Much better. Now, we got the Joey Ryan and Matt Morgan seeing Hulk Hogan. Now it's obvious that Joey and Matt Morgan together, and Joey looks like a little kid to Matt. Damn, Matt is tall. The Hulk puts Joey over a little bit, saying simply, if you're going to be here, make that 87% into 100%. I want this. I'm a fan of you. That was okay. He put him over, not in a huge way, but he did put him over enough that once he starts doing something in the ring, it might actually help. And for Matt Morgan, who simply, let's be honest, before the push for Matt Morgan, what was he doing? He worked with Hernandez for a little while. He had to go out because he got hurt. He came back, worked for a little bit, then dealt with Mr. Anderson when he had a concussion by 2010 into 11. became a face after that, was doing not that great, but not that bad. Then he went into the Crimson angle, worked with Crimson, became his tag champion partner. They lost the championship straps. Then when everyone who expected the match between Crimson and Matt Morgan, which was on paper was supposed to look really good, but when they finally had it, it was a waste. It was horrendous. No one expected, and I didn't expect it to be that bad. So right now, this is a second chance for him. The way that Hulk Hogan put him over, because he did put him over, ladies and gentlemen. It sounded like he said, I've been a advocate for you, but every time when you've been given an offer, every time you were given a shot, you always came up short. This was him putting him over as a heel, to piss him off more. Excuse me. To get him to get more out as a heel. To try and get people to notice that this guy's had his shots and he screwed up. What is he going to do now different? Now with this, being with Joey Ryan, I believe the one that's going to be more prominently featured between those two will be Matt Morgan. Joey Ryan's there for the ride. He's not there to get over Matt Morgan. He's not. He's going to get a rub from Matt Morgan. He's not going to get over because of Matt Morgan in the way that, like, he's going to springboard off to get something much better. Not at first. I expect them to be in the program for at least 4 months. Matt Morgan is the one that's going to make that two work, either as tag team champions or as individual wrestlers just together. That's what I see. And at least I can say Hulk Hogan's doing a decent job in that. He did do well. Now, when it came to the... we got the Rhodes and we got the Storm. No, not Rhodes, sorry. Rude and Storm promo segment. Rude really put Storm over. He did. He did a good job. He said, you know what? I made sure I become the it factor. But everything you got is because of me. I carried your ass. In a sense, he did. Everybody you can say no. Robert Roode did not carry Storm. In a sense, he did. The way things were structured by last year's Bound for Glory, James Storm didn't get the shot to become champion until at the last hour. From what I can tell, Robert Roode did not get over enough with the fans. When he faced Kurt Angle for that championship, you had Kurt Angle have to do dirty to win, and Robert Roode loses. Then you got next week where basically Storm wins over Kurt Angle. It's obvious. If it wasn't because of Roode losing, Storm wouldn't got what he got. But I can say honestly, they put each other over very well. And then when you get the super kick in the face for Robert Roode, it's obvious that the program's not going to be over immediately. They're still going to be doing something together. My guess is it's either going to be a last man standing match or an I Quit match. I believe it's going to be an I Quit match by the end of it. When they're finished with their run, when they finally, the brass of TNA say, you know what, we let this run long enough, either we're going to break these two off or make them friends again. I believe it's going to be an I Quit match. There is no way this type of feud is going to end other than that. If it's not a last man standing, it's got to be an I Quit. It's got to be. There's no other way to do it. Who do I think is going to win? I can't tell you, because I really don't know. But it will be very interesting. They're very good in the ring together. They got good chemistry. They can make a match work, because you saw Bound for Glory. For me, that was the match of the night. So that's what I felt about it. Finally, you got the Devon versus Sting segment. And again, like I said in the beginning of this video, for Aces and Eights, I hope they continue having their members continue coming from the crowd, coming from the audience. That gives us something different. They're not part of the TNA roster. They're not. The minute they start going into the TNA roster, that's when I think they'll begun to get really dull. By coming out to the crowd, at least for now, is doing well. I like this. Devon coming out was great. And as Sergeant-in-Arms, we now know there's a president, and he's just a sergeant. He helps probably guide the troops. How was the match? Not bad. It was a standard match. Neither one of them are that bad. Especially that Sting has really got himself back into shape in the last 4 or 5 months. He got himself back into shape when he went away and came back, as I said before. He's not as bad as he used to be because he used to get very badly winded because he was very out of shape. By the end of the match, when it looked like Sting was going to win, we got the rest of Aces and Eight coming from the audience again and attacking Sting. And then you got the roster coming out, kicking the ass of Aces and Eight again. The last person to come out was Bully Ray with the bat, and they fade to black right when Bully Ray is chasing after Aces and Eight. So how do I feel about this? Solid C. That's not a bad thing. Solid C, or I say a solid C. There's nothing really that bad about this Impact. They did a lot of Aces and Eights. Don't get me wrong, but they still got the doing something with basically the knockouts. That's not bad. Now the championship for Jeff Hardy. That's not bad. We now know that we're going to have Anderson. We're going to have Bully Ray. We're going to have, who else is going to be there? Kurt Angle. And we're going to have, who else? Oh my goodness, I can't believe that I forgot the last person. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a hectic day. I had some stuff to do. But we got 4 people for that match. 4. So that's going to be interesting for next week. The Knockout Championship is going to be contested. I'm sure that Samoa Joe... Oh, forgot about Samoa Joe and Robbie E. Make it quick. Samoa Joe wins by a muscle buster. Robbie E was not even a match. He got the smack spit out of him. Well, he got the smack. He got smacked to death. I'm very sorry I forgot that one. I'm so sorry. And like I said, it's a C show. And we got probably, we're going to have Bully Ray's going to be there. Of course, he's going to be in the match. We're going to have Samoa Joe. He's going to probably do another match and contest it. Hopefully it's not Robbie E. going to be somebody else. Maybe we'll have Kazarian. You never know. Now, I'm going to say this clearly, and I may leave this in the title. The signs have begun. You saw 2 signs in the beginning of the show. A teaser, I believe, of showing another person that is part of Aces and Eights eventually going to show themselves. At the end of the show, you saw 6 scenes. Yeah, 6 scenes of teasers, video switchovers to the person that probably may show themselves eventually. Maybe by No Surrender, if that's the right pay-per-view. Maybe by Genesis, that might be the pay-per-view. But we have teasers of the person who's also involved in Aces and Eights that's about to show themselves. I do not think that basically Devon's the only one. And I say it again. The teaser is about Garrett Bischoff. I know people say, oh, come on, man. Why do you keep going back to Garrett Bischoff? There ain't nothing there. Really. If you look at, watch Impact again at the very beginning of the show. The first teaser, you have the entire Impact roster coming down. What did they do? They cut to Garrett Bischoff and did a close-up of him. Not once, but twice. He was the first person in front of where Aces and Eights was and Devon. He was facing Devon. He was the first one when you cut to show Devon who agreed to the match with Sting. He was facing him. Then at the end, who were the first 2 to come down after Sting was getting beat up? It was Anderson, and then you got Garrett Bischoff. Why the hell would you show Bischoff at all? He's a nobody. There's a reason. If you look at all the scenes they had in there, Garrett Bischoff, every time, even the overshot scenes when they're moving in, the close-up scenes, or the scenes where they had to go to another shot, always, every single scene, almost every last one of them had, there was like about maybe 12 cutoffs, between 10 to 12 break-offs to each camera. Garrett was in them. And Garrett was probably featured not only fighting, but getting his ass kicked. And he was in the middle of the ring with the overshot. He was at one side of the ring, and they didn't even have to go to Garrett. They could have gone to AJ Styles. They could have stayed on Chavo Guerrero. They could have stayed with James Storm. Why would they have 6 shots with Garrett Bischoff? for the simple fact that Garrett, as I said in my, is Garrett part of the Aces and Eights? He has to be eventually shown in some form of capacity. It doesn't mean he has to even be included in anything. This is it, ladies and gentlemen, the first signs of Garrett. Next Impact, if we see Garrett again for no apparent reason, he's not going for a title. He's not talking to Hulk Hogan. He's not talking to Sting. He's not practically doing anything. But we see him for some reason. That's the sign. If it's not about him, it's about his daddy. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you for seeing the Zane View. Oh man, I did 30 minutes. I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you liked this video. If you're please tell me if I'm talking too damn much. I'm still learning how to condense this stuff down much more easier. I'm not always the type that likes to hear myself talk, but I just want to be really detailed to do this right. So leave a comment at the bottom saying, dude, don't make it so long. We get bored. Please, let me know if I'm doing this correctly. If I'm not, help me, ladies and gentlemen. I want to do this correctly so I can do this good for you. Have a good day.